Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to NFR. It's Wednesday night, so that means it's time for SAFRL Tier 2. Of course, we did Tier 1 on Monday night at this very circuit. Some of these guys would have been watching that stream just to get some ideas on strategy. That's the advantage that the Tier 2 drivers do have over the Tier 1 drivers. They get to have a look at the race just 2 days before. Of course, we have a tight championship on both sides. Drivers' Championship, Constructors' Championship. Lots to play for. We've already got the first cars out on track. Remember, just the one qualifying session here in SAFRL, so just the 18 minutes. Everybody needs to get around, set their best lap time, and that will set the order for the race. Tyler Boy out on track. I think that was the first car out on track. Both Ferraris out on track. Spikes and Skull. This is Spikes. Off the Imola circuit, known as the immediate Imola Grand Prix, once known as the San Marino Grand Prix. Not many know this. Many think of Monza as Ferrari's home, but Imola is actually a lot closer to Maranello than Monza is. This is the closest Ferrari get to home. The only closer they could get to home is if they were racing at Maranello. They did that in 2020. And as great as it was to have a race at that circuit, it turned out to be a pretty boring one. Track that created lots of excitement in motorcycle racing just didn't really translate to the modern F1 car. This is Tyler Boy. I believe he was the first one out on track, so he will get the first lap time out of him. As I say that, we watch him go very wide over the corner. I will not be surprised if that's an invalidation. He'll be on a second out lap. Looks like he's not using any battery. Maybe just backed out of that lap completely. This is Imola. The only Aston Martin here tonight, also just the 1RB. Stoffel, first man over the line of 116.2. Of course, we've got nothing to compare it to, as Tier 1 quali was soaking wet. Got that time in earlier on. Of course, that was a 121, it was a wet session. Don't have anything to compare it to this week. Maybe these guys will get the rain in the race instead. But if there was rain in the race, I'm sure somebody would have told me already. Lap time's coming in now. Pantry Star, fastest man. He is the joint championship leader. Pantry Star and Poinkies both sitting on top of the table with 92 points apiece. The order is Pantry Star, Stoffel, and then Skull. Look at the lap times at the front, very close. Pantry Star in a bit of a lead of his own, but then the rest of the cars really close together. 16-2, 16-4, 16-6. Transfers over the line, 17.5, good enough for P5. Still waiting for a lot of drivers to set their laps. Here goes Imola. This is the start of his quick lap. Rahwa. This is the end of his quick lap, and he goes P5, 117.0. We join Maggot at the wrong time as he goes through the gravel. Tyler Boy, of course, that first run obviously didn't go to plan. I think he invalidated the whole thing, so he's come into the pits, put on a new set of tyres. He's gonna have another go. No lap time on the screen though for him. Want to get that first lap time in. They want to be starting from the rear of the field. Can make overtakes at Imola. But some of them require bravery. Sometimes it also needs an opponent that's going to accept that bravery, because if both drivers, well, you're going to have a Max Verstappen. This is Skull. He's done his first lap time. It was a 16.4. Currently at the head of the second row. Still lots of drivers yet to set their lap time. Tyler Boy on an out lap for the second time. He hasn't set a lap yet. We join Muller at the wrong time as he goes off the circuit as well, looking for his first lap time. Then this is Panda in the Alpine, the only Alpine here this evening. About to go over the line, his battery's drained. This is a quick lap, it's good enough for P2, it's a 16 flat. Meanwhile, Skull has made an improvement. not in position, but in time. 16-1, Stoffel 16-2. Then we have Wezo, new to tier 2, P5 16.6. Then Gotzi, he's leaving the pits, also 16.6. 17 flat for Rakwa. Chums P8 and Maggot, the slowest of the timed drivers so far. As I say that, Moller puts in his first lap, it's a 1:26.1. Of course, that's not representative. It's just his first timed lap. Then Tylee Boy, still no lap time from the Haas driver. Spikes, the second Ferrari, his teammates up on the second row. Like to get up there and join him. And then joint championship leader, Boinkies. No lap time from him as of yet, but he has gone purple in sector 2. Keep your eyes on the very green Kick Sauber, because he's definitely on the move. He got that purple in sector 2, and now he's just looking to finish off his lap time. Let's see how he puts it all together. Battery drained almost to nothing, and it's a 16.7. It's a good lap time. Problem is the field is just so close, all with the exception of Pantry Star. Pantry Star 15.4. That's 6/10 quicker than anyone else on circuit at the moment. Then this is where the lap times get close. Panda P2 16.0, and he's just been passed. Moller, the second man into the 15s. It's a 15.8. Not good enough to dethrone Pantry Star. Good enough for the front row. Now Panda's been demoted to the second row. 16 flat. Skull 16.1. Stoffel 16.2. And there's a bit of a gap. Wezo 16.6. Gotzi 16.6. Boinky 16.7. Just such close lap times. Just finding a 10th or 2 could put you up an entire row or 2 on the grid. Everything to play for in the closing stages of qualifying, because this is far from decided. Pantry Star looked pretty comfortable there with a 15.4, but now Moller got into the 15s. It was a 15.8, and he's actually been passed by the second Ferrari. So Spikes now up onto that front row, 15.6. And now the 15s are becoming the lap you want to be on. Here is Stoffel. All the battery's gone. That's how we know he's on a quick lap. Goes over the line. It's good enough for P3. And all of a sudden the timesheet's being populated with 15s. You want to be on the front 2 rows, you're going to need a 1:15. This is Panda. 16 flat. Not quite good enough for now. P5, Skull in the pits. 1:16.1. It's a good lap time when he set it. The track has evolved. The timing sheets have evolved. Needs to get out there. Try get himself back onto that second row. Two McLarens running line astern. This is Rakwa. It's followed by Maggot. Big lockup for Maggot. One McLaren into the pits, the other McLaren stays out on track. That's Maggot into the pits. Rakwa over the line. Had a 17 flat. It's improved by half a second. 16.5. But only good enough for P8. This is Tylee Boy. Struggled in the beginning of the session to set a lap time. Eventually got a lap time down, a 1:17.0. I'm looking at the track map and it's red, which means this lap is invalidated as well. It's not having a lot of luck with the layout. Seems to be invalidating a lot of lap times, and if we have a repeat of Monday night, penalties is going to be quite a factor in the race. Guys really want to stay within those white lines. We saw some pretty harsh penalties on Monday night. Some guys going up to 12 seconds. I had one driver with 9 seconds worth of penalties on the 9th lap of the race. So really want to stay out of that penalties column. Rakwa, I believe he'll return to the pits. Yes, he does. Currently in P8. This is Wezo. In the first of the two halves, his teammate down in P11. That's Tylee Boy. He's been having trouble setting a lap around this circuit. As for his teammate, 4/10 quicker. Everyone wants to win the race, but the first step, if you want to beat your teammate, beating your teammate is something I am only able to do when my teammate does something ridiculous or gets very unlucky. But I did beat him last week. This is Wezo, he is the only man currently on a quick lap. He's in P7. Also have Maggot now starting a quick lap. Outlaps from Boinkies, Stoffel and Pantry Star, so the joint championship leaders are both on track. They're just on two very different sides of the timing sheets. Boinkies usually comes back in the race. He's got good race pace, consistent race pace. And one thing Boinkies has to his advantage, if you've watched lots of races with him, you'll note that he stays within those lines. As I say that, he runs wide. But within the race, he's usually one of those drivers that just does not pick up penalties. And if all his opponents around him are doing that, safety car or two that keeps the crowd together could potentially give you a race that you didn't even have the pace to win. We're riding with Maggot briefly, 1:21.7, that's his best lap. He's at the rear of the field, but he is out on track looking for something better, as is Pantry Star, your current pole sitter. Got 3 minutes remaining in the session. Spikes emerges from the pits, currently P2. Maggot has put that McLaren up into P3. Look, 15.7. Stoffel also 15.7. Moller 15.8. Incredibly close lap times at the front. Pantry Star just making sure he's out of the way. Spikes on an outlap, trying to get temperature into those tires. You see the cars just weaving around, also just trying to make some space. Last thing you want is to run into anybody on your final attempt at a fast lap. You want to make sure you have that clean air ahead of you. Some drivers try to get really close, use things like slipstream in a quali lap. Sometimes it can go very wrong, and the car you're trying to gain an advantage from can end up impeding you. This is Spikes, still on that outlap, currently P2, 15.6, current pole sitter. 15.4, Pantry Star, he's got a 2/10 advantage over everybody else. Currently riding with him in Sector 2. This is Spikes, currently on the front row, but he'd love it to take it one step further, put it on pole position. Does the Ferrari have the extra 2 or 3 tenths that he will need? And of course Pantry Star is out on track, but as I say that, dives into the pits, so there will be no improvement on the 15.4. That is the time to beat, 15.487. And Spikes, he's one of the drivers looking to beat that lap time. With the Ferrari driver, currently in P2. This is Stoffel P3, Maggot P4. Some drivers now starting to retire. Those are the drivers that can no longer get out and set another lap time, so they've just retired from the session. Pantry Star was on provisional pole, but with 10 seconds remaining in the session, the Ferrari driver Spikes has taken pole position, and unless anybody else can change it, it's still provisional pole. Maggot is still out on track. Imola still out on track, as is Panda. All of these drivers I'm mentioning, they're quick drivers. They have the potential to improve. Remember, some of these drivers will have the car set up more for the race than for qualifying. Some of the lap times you'll see in the race, some drivers are a lot closer in race pace than they are in quali pace. So all the drivers here at the rear of the field, you can still count them in. This is Moller trying to put in his final attempt. Battery is drained, doesn't go into the pits, so there is an improvement coming. 15.8, it's a big improvement. It's a 15.4. Not long ago that would have been good enough for pole position, but Spikes improved it to a 15.2. So who else is still out on track? And the answer is nobody. Everybody has gone over the checkered flag, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be your order. Just going to wait though for the official result. Real quick, we just look at the Drivers' Championship. Remember, Boinkies and Pantry Star, they're leading the championship joint on 92 points apiece. And then for the Team Championship, well, it looks like it could be a good day for Ferrari. Sauber leading the constructors, but both cars starting outside the top 10. There are your official results for qualifying. Spikes takes pole position at 1:15.2 was his best. Joined on the front row, Moller P2. Then we've got Pantry Star, Panda, Stoffel, Maggot, Skull, Ruckler, Gotzi, and Wezo making up the top 10. Just outside the top 10, P11 Boinkies, P12 Tiley Boy, and making up the field, Chums. Of course, now we will see a brief break. This is when the drivers are doing the final touch-ups to their strategies. Things like what tyre are they going to start on? How deep into the race do they intend to pit? Of course, everyone needs to make at least one pit stop in order to use 2 compounds of tyre. And of course, after the short break, we will have a formation lap. Was waiting for the dual green lights, but we didn't get the dual green lights, but we're off for a formation lap. Spikes leading the way, Pantry Star, P2, Panda, Stoffel, Maggot, Skull, Moller, Ruckwa, Gotzi, Wezo, Boinkies, Tiley Boy, and Chums. That is your order. Spikes getting a little too ahead of the field. Wants to back that field up. Last thing you want to do is sit out there on the pit straight all by yourself for too long. Letting your tires cool down. before the all-important turn 1. Just to have a look at your tyre situation. Spike's the leader. He's starting on the hard compound. Just 3 drivers starting on the hard compound. Wezo in the Haas, and then the pair of Ferraris, Skull and Spikes. The rest of the field going on the medium. Spike's taking a bit of a risk. Everyone around him is going to be on the medium compound. They're going to have a slight advantage. Their tyres will fall off first, of course. But in the early stages of this race, I think it's going to be advantage mediums. Well, Spikes, he did that lap awfully quickly, and as a result, sitting there for quite some time. It's not really going to be to his advantage. I mentioned the tyres are going to cool down. Well, there's another factor to worry about than that. So of course, drivers here on F124 have been struggling with getting tyre temperature into the tyres, and it's going to be even more difficult for the hard runner in the early stages. Panda in P3, let's see. The getaway. Seems like a good start from the leader, but it could be a better start from the RB. Let's try and get a better view of it. This is Pantry Star. Is he going to do anything crazy? No, he's not. The Ferrari slips into the lead, or at least keeps the lead for now. Leads from Pantry Star. Remember, Pantry Star, one of the 2 men on top of the championship table, so important race for him. Panda in P3, then we've got Maggot, still for P5. Got a one-stop prediction. 2-stop if you want to do something interesting. And of course, if we have a safety car, you can throw those right out the window. Spike still leads the way from Pantry Star, gap just 0.3 of a second. DRS is not yet active, but it will be available on the next lap. We have Panda in P3, Maggot P4, Stoffel P5. Skull still holding firm in P6. All this time in the early days of the race here. Remember, he is on the hard compound, so he's going to be at a slight disadvantage in these early stages. Takes more time to get temperature into the tyres. Takes more time to get that optimal grip. But he's making use of those hard tyres as he fights now with the Mercedes. Does he go up the inside? No, he doesn't. He backs out of it. Mercedes holds on to the position for now. But Skull definitely looking at P5 and saying, I want that position. This is the man currently in P5, and he's made a mistake. He's gone off into the gravel, ran wide. We got a good view of it. We were looking at his rear wing when it happened. And that has allowed Skull up into the top 5. And 2 of those 3 hard runners are in the top 5. Good starts for the hard runners. Wasn't expecting it. The other hard runner is Wezo down in P9. We also have Tylee Boy on hards, but he has come into the pits at the end of lap 1 and put those hards on, so not the strategy of choice. At the front, Pantry Star has taken the lead of the race away from Spikes. Spikes in P2 and will shortly be coming under pressure from Panda and Maggot. And there's a bit of a gap down to Skull in P5, sorry, and he's got a bit of a queue behind him. They've all got DRS. He's going to be the only one in the battle without DRS. It's going to be difficult for him to hold on to that, and as I say it, he goes down into P6. Stoffel makes use of DRS to get past him quite easily, but I wonder if he just couldn't get the car slowed down for that chicane effectively, because he's picked up a 3-second time penalty. It's only lap 3. Said they should stay out of the penalties column, and already we're seeing signs of Monday night. Fantastic racing here in the midfield. Great helicopter shots of Stoffel leading a queue of hungry drivers All of them looking for that P5, which he currently holds. A little further up the field, we've got Maggot, Panda, Pantry Star, Spikes, all in a DRS train for the lead of the race. Maggot very close to Panda, looking to clear that Alpine. Can't fight for the lead of the race from back there. Wants to get himself ahead of this DRS train. Spikes. Cars now just trading places. This is because of DRS. Of course, you get DRS one lap, you're able to stay close enough behind. Then your opponent gets DRS the next. So the important thing you want to do in these early stages, we've had a retirement, we've got a caution, and well, this is a very, very early safety car. We've lost a driver, that is Tylee Boy, was at the rear of the field in P13, he's now out of the race. We're down to just the 12 runners, points on the cards for almost all of the drivers. But we are under our first safety car of the evening, lap 4 of 32. Considering the entire field started on either mediums or hards, I don't expect to see anybody utilizing this safety car to make a pit stop. I think everyone will just stay out on track, hold on to track position. Cars are way too close together at this stage for you to make a pit stop. As I say that, Pantry Star decides to prove me wrong. He dives into the pits. I think he's one of the only cars to dive into the pits. Yes, he is, Pantry Star. He's decided to make a pit stop. That's an interesting one. He didn't seem to have damage. Maybe just going straight for that hard tyre, looking to go as deep into the race as possible and maybe even end the race. Have to do approximately 27 laps on those tyres. It would be quite the marathon. Maybe he's anticipating another safety car at some stage so he can go get rid of those hards, finish on a better compound of tyre. Or if he does make it all the way to the end, he's going to have to play a balancing act with those tyres. Man, that was hassling Spikes since the start of the race. Now going to be all the way down in P11. But I don't think that's going to be much respite for Spikes. Now he's going to have Panda and Maggot behind him. We saw how quick they were in those initial stages of the race. It's just interesting that Pantry Star decided to make that pit stop, get rid of what was almost a brand new set of mediums. It's gone onto the hard. Look forward to seeing how far he's going to take those tyres. But because the field was so close together, the pit stop cost him a lot of positions. He's going to restart the race in P11. He's going to restart the race in P12. Not quite sure why Stoffel went past him. Maybe Pantry Star left the track. Stoffel has passed Pantry Star under safety car. I believe the only way you can do that is if the car ahead of you goes off circuit, or if it has some sort of incident and it's ghosting, then you can, well, most of the time you can just drive through it. The game can always throw a surprise at you. Pantry Star has lost a further position, which means he's going to be starting right from the rear of the field. If he wants to get a podium today, there's going to have to be a lot of overtakes involved. Got the safety car, I think, on lap 4. It's now lap 6. So we're waiting confirmation. of when the safety car intends to go back to its spot in the pit lane, and hopefully it doesn't come back out. What this does do, we saw there was a DRS battle for the top four, then there was a separate DRS battle for the midfield, which brings those guys all back together, closes the gaps. We are getting ready for that restart. Spikes will be thinking, when does he go? How does he approach turn 1? Will Panda attack? All sorts of scenarios will be going through your head, and you've got to cancel them all out, and the only thing you can be worried about is the apex of turn 1. Spikes gets a good restart. Panda P2 also with a solid restart. Maggot P3. Doesn't look like anybody's got the jump on anybody there in the top 3. Then Skull in P4. Hasn't been able to stay as close to the top 3 as he would have wanted. He's already a second back. He's defending from Imola, Rakwa, Boinkies, who now has his championship rival behind him for the first time in the race. And that's not going to help things. Pantry Star picks up a 3-second time penalty. So the man who's got to come through the field and make a lot of overtakes, well, now he's got a 3-second disadvantage that will sit next to his name right to the end of the race. Of course, the 10-second penalties can be served in the pit lane. The corner cutting infringements get added to your race time. If we have a field as close as it is right now, a 3 or 6 seconds worth of penalties, and you can imagine what it will do to your race. Spikes, Panda, Maggot, DRS enabled. Guys are able to stay relatively close together with the slipstream, but it's when the DRS comes into play, that's when the overtakes happen. So difficult to defend. Probably the only track left on the F1 calendar where you can effectively defend from a driver for lap after lap is Monaco. Every other track with the use of DRS, it's only a matter of time. Of course, if you're the attacking driver, as Moller is in this situation as he chases Skull, you've got the use of DRS. Every time you go into that DRS zone, you open up the rear wing, it gives you a huge boost over the car ahead of you. You also have the use of ERS, which is your battery. As for the driver ahead of you, well, he's just going to have the battery. So that's what's important here for Skull. As I said, the top 3 got away from him a little at the restart, but he's been able to come right back at them. Is that a ghosting car ahead? Well, it was ghosting briefly. Seems to be back in control. Skull P4. Panda goes defensive. And now P2, P3, P4 very close together. Moller also looking to get in on that action. He's not far behind, he's within DRS. And Boinkies up into P6. So he didn't have a good qualifying session, but this is what Boinkies does. He surprises you throughout the race. Sometimes you even forget he's there. Then all of a sudden when you start to see his name towards the top of the timesheets, you wonder how did he get there. And usually he's able to stay there for the rest of the race. Not always the quickest driver, but one of the most consistent drivers out on track. So the difference between me and Boinkies is we both have very good consistency, with the exception that my consistency is consistently slow. Spikes leads the way. Very, very good day for Ferrari so far if they're able to hold things like this. Now Skull goes attacking, does he? Looks towards the inside and then thinks better of it. He knew there was going to be nowhere to go, and his patience paid off. Patience paid off. Maggot makes a mistake, loses all sorts of momentum. He's able to hold on to the car, but Skull makes up a position, and we have two Ferraris up in the top three in Imola. What a place to do it. Well, if you're going to get a 1-2 for Ferrari, you're going to want to do it in Imola, or you're going to want to do it in Monza. Wouldn't the Tifosi love to see this? But in between the Ferraris, ruining that party for now is Panda. Still very quick. As for Skull, he's in P3, but it's not a comfortable P3. He's still got those cars attacking from behind, and now he's looking to go into P2. He's done so. He's done so before the corner. The Alpine almost looks to attack immediately. Decides better of it. And Skull will hold on to P2 for now. Spikes leads the way from his teammate. The gap between the two Ferraris, 2.5 seconds. Then we've got Panda in P3. Imola P4, Maggot P5. And these two Ferraris that went on a very alternate strategy that actually caught me off guard. I wasn't sure why they were doing what they were doing, but it seems like they've worked it out perfectly. The two hard runners are in the lead of the race, P1 and P2. Got a caution. Hopefully that's all it will be. Still flashing on the left hand side of our screens. And there we go, it disappears. As we can get back underway. Every time you see that caution, it just breaks your concentration a little. Makes you think what's coming. The thing that usually goes through my head is, oh no. Got a bunch of cars now peeling off into the pits. And I wonder if this is where Spikes and Skull are getting the advantage. Those medium tyres now just starting to fall off. Got a few medium runners that came into the pits. Maggot came into the pits, as did Panda. Panda's just left the pits. So we are in that first pit window. Now Spikes and Skull, they've got to utilize those hards. The purpose of the hards is that they're going to go a little deeper into the race. This is where they need to be quick. They're going to have a bit of a gap over the cars they were racing with. But they will too soon need to pit. And they're going to have to rely on these lap times now to make sure they can hold on to their position after their pit stops. Mola, Boinkies, P3 and 4, both those cars still on the mediums they started the race on. They're taking the mediums a little further than the leaders did. Pantry Star P5, Stoffel P6, Wezo P7. And it's still a Ferrari 1-2. And Skull, well, he's making up ground on his teammate. The gap was 2.5 seconds. The gap is now 2 seconds, so he's found half a second somewhere. Or Spikes has made a little mistake, one of the two. Mola now also dropping back, so rather than Spikes making a mistake, I think this is the pace of the second Ferrari. Mola hasn't been able to stay with him. Then we have Pantry Star in P4. Remember, he made a very early pit stop. He pit on lap 4 under that first or only safety car that we've had so far. And look how he's come back through the field. P4 now, and after those hard runners do decide to come into the pits, he's going to be very far in the lead of this race. But then he's going to have to do some tyre management and hope for a safety car. Had just the one retirement though. That was Tylee Boy. Had a difficult qualifying session and then didn't get too far into the race. Frustrating evening for the second half driver. Maggot picks up a 3-second time penalty. Time penalties coming in thick and fast, not as quite as quick as Monday night. Pantry Star sets the fastest lap of the race there in P3. Remember, he's also on the hard compound. He's got a 4-lap advantage over the 2 cars in front of him. But the 2 cars in front of him have not made a pit stop. So when Spikes and Skull do decide to come into the pits, Pantry Star will retake the lead of the race, or he will take the lead of the race, unless he does it before the pit window. Starting to chase down Skull, he's within DRS. Spikes has reacted to his teammate. Remember, the gap went down all the way to 2 seconds. Now it's back up to 2.8, so he's reacted to that gap. I think he knows Pantry Star is there, not too far behind. And he knows he needs to get on with it. Not sure if he knows Pantry Star has made a pit stop or not. Sometimes the drivers are in communication, sometimes they aren't. Some drivers like to just be them and the sound of the engine. Others are in a party chat and they're all communicating. I'm sure these 2 Ferrari drivers are in communication. Spikes P1, Skull P2. If I'm not mistaken, Andre is also on the radio. Shouldn't be on the radio, he should be in the comms box. Nobody wants to join me in the comms box. Spikes leads from Skull. And this is the man to watch. Remember, he made a very early pit stop. I called it a strange pit stop, but it seems like I keep on getting it wrong tonight. Thought it was a strange strategy for the Ferraris to start on hards, but now they find themselves in P1 and 2. Thought it was really strange for Pantry Star to give up position, go to the rear of the field. Remember, he was in P12 at a stage, but now he's gone all the way back to P3. And it seems like those hard tyres, seems like those are the tyres to be on. Still on the medium compound that they started on. I was going to say they, but Boinkies has come into the pits eventually. So the only driver still to be on a set of mediums that he started the race on is Imola. It's now 15 laps on those mediums. Remember, if he takes these mediums a few laps longer than everybody else and then jumps onto the hard, it just means his hards are going to be in much better shape than everybody else's at the end of the race. Panda sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's actually just split the Ferraris, gets past Skull, and now he's looking to catch up to his teammate. 2.6 seconds up the road is Spikes. But remember, these Ferraris need to pit. Moller's P4, he also needs to pit. So the potential race lead here is Pantry Star, followed by Stoffel and Wezo. Remember, now the Ferraris had their first stint of the race on the hard compound. They're going to have the better compound, or at least the faster compound, for the second half of the race. That should give them a good advantage. But I think that safety car giving Pantry Star that pit stop, I think it just put things out of sync a little. What looked like a 1-2 for Ferrari, well, they're going to have to do a bit of work to make that happen by the checkered flag. Had an incident, it's Pantry Star. Don't think there was contact. It looks like he just lost it, and Skull drove right through the ghost there of that car. So Pantry Star, he'll be annoyed with himself. He's lost almost 4 seconds down to that little spin. 4 seconds behind Skull now, and he's got that 3-second penalty, so technically he's 7 seconds. behind Skull. You've got that, when you've got those penalties next to your name, that's the last thing you want to be doing. It's making mistakes when you're fighting for race position. Chums picks up a 3-second penalty. Wezo picks up the 3-second penalty. I can't keep up with them. There was another one and I didn't see the name. So, Pantry Star, Stoffel, Wezo, Panda, Imola, Gotzi, Chums. All of them 3-second penalty, and then a 6-second penalty for Rukwa as well as Maggot. So the two McLarens, they're on 6 seconds, and then most of the rest of the field on a 3-second penalty. Lots of penalties on your screen. I mentioned it earlier about the bright green Salber of Boinkies. It's one of the things he's known for. It's one of the things I've seen him do in so many of my commentary sessions. He's just able to stay out of that penalties column when it seems like the whole field is having trouble with it. 3 drivers outside the penalty column, so well done to them. That's Boinkies, Skull and Spike. So the pair of Ferraris and the Salber, almost called it an Alfa Romeo, but that is no more. I can't get too used to calling it a Salber, because soon it's going to be an Audi. Lots of excitement going into 2026. Now also looking at the possibility of Toyota entering F1 as an engine manufacturer to the Haas team. Problem is, who's still going to be using the Ferrari engine? If Sauber becomes Audi and Haas uses Toyota engines, who wants a Ferrari engine? Looking at becoming like Alpine, where absolutely no one is buying your engine as a customer team. Of course, it is a big advantage having your engine in multiple cars, multiple teams. Mercedes as an engine manufacturer is able to gain so much data with, how many cars do they have out on track? Is it 8? I think it's 8. Obviously the pair of Mercedes, pair of Aston Martins, pair of McLarens and pair of Williams. There's 8 McLaren engines out on track that they're able to gain data from, and they're able to use that data to further develop the engine. Ferrari also 6 cars out on track with the Ferrari engine. But in the case of Alpine, well, they've only got their 2 cars. They also happen to be the engine with the biggest power deficit. Very much down on horsepower. Rukwa, that's a harsh one. That's a very harsh one. I thought that was a pit lane infringement, but it's a track infringement. It's a corner cutting infringement worth 10 seconds for Rukwa. So it looks like he must have flown through an entire chicane. I'm not quite sure what he did there, but that is a very big penalty for a track infringement. I've seen 10-second penalties for pit lane infringements. But 10 seconds once off for a track infringement? Seems pretty rough. I'd love to know what he did. Pantry Star leads the way. 3-second penalty next to his name. Stoffel P2, also 3-second penalty next to his name. Spikes has made that pit stop. He's re-emerged in P3. Then Panda in P4. Still splitting the Ferraris. Skull's also made that pit stop. So he's also got fresh mediums on that car, and now's the time to take advantage of them. Mediums will be falling off at the end of the race. They'll be about 12 laps old, so if you're going to make up ground, you need to make up ground now while those mediums are working. Of course, the two drivers out front, Pantry Star and Stoffel, they are out there on hards. They made those pit stops very early on. That was under the first safety car that came out on lap 4. So either they're going to pit yet again, go onto a soft tyre, or they're going to stretch those tyres till the very end. But if the latter comes out to be the more likely, then they're going to be holding on to those tyres at the end. They're going to have to play a bit of a balancing act, especially if Stoffel is able to get closer to Pantry Star and they have to battle for position. If they're battling for position, I think those hards will fall off before the end of the race. But will it be enough for the medium runners to catch up? That is a pretty lengthy gap, 12 seconds. We do have a caution flashing on the screen, but it's gone away. Skull sets the fastest lap of the race. It's 1:17.2. And that is a very decent lap time. At 12.6 seconds is the gap between the first Ferrari in P3 and the medium runners out, and the hard runners rather, out front, Pantry Star and Stoffel. Those two on a strategy that is very much out of sync with everybody else. We got an early safety car on lap 4. I didn't think anybody was going to utilize that for a pit stop unless they had damage. Stoffel did utilize it, but he was a little further back in the field. But Pantry Star, he was very much within the top 3 and just decided to pit on lap 4. Caught me off guard, but it seems to have worked. He leads the way. He's got a big lead, but he does have a penalty. Let's just check up on the penalties again to see if they have evolved. Not really. Oh yes, they have. Ruckwer now 16 seconds, Chums 3 seconds, then Gotzi's gone up to 6, Wezo 3, Moller, Maggot and Panda 3 seconds apiece. Actually Maggot's on 9, and then Pantry Star and Stoffel, the two leaders, 3 seconds apiece. This could be vital that both Ferraris stay out of the penalties column, that Boinky stays out of the penalties column. The only 3 drivers yet to pick up a penalty. Some of those drivers will be on warnings. They'll know exactly how many warnings they have. But in the case of Ruckwer, well, he got 10 seconds flat out, straight away, in one corner. Again, caution flashes on our screen, but hopefully that's all it is. Doesn't turn into anything else. Remember, we had a safety car on lap 4. It's now lap 23 of 32. Once we get to lap 29, then you no longer need to worry about the safety car. Safety car does not come out with 3 or less laps remaining. So once we get to lap 29, we're pretty safe. But until then, we still have a safety car that comes in and flips things around. The safety car right now would almost guarantee a Ferrari 1-2. Everyone else in the field around them has penalties. Two unlucky drivers, if the race were to end right now, they would not score any points. That's Chums and Ruckwer, they're P11 and 12. Then the rest of the field will all get points. Of course, if you set the fastest lap of the race and you're within the top 10, you also get 1 bonus point towards the championship. The Constructors' Championship at the moment, really between Kick, Sauber and the Ferraris. Ferraris having a much better evening than the Saubers. P3 and 4. Good points on the night. As for the Drivers' Championship, 92 points apiece for Pantry Star and Boinkies. Pantry Star at the front of the field. Boinkies down in P7. This is Spikes. He is making up ground on those top two. His teammate trying to stay with him. This is Skull in P4. He just hasn't been able to shake off Panda. I'm sure he's wanting to concentrate on staying with his teammate, but he's coming under pressure from the Alpine. That was a late move. Around the outside, nothing Skull could do. But now he will have DRS, he will have the opportunity to come back at Panda. Panda has 13 laps on those hards. Skull has 7 laps on those mediums. Mediums shouldn't be falling off just yet, but we know that once they start to get to lap 11, lap 12, the drivers seem to be jumping into the pits, so that I think that's when the grip starts to go. So I wonder if the absolute peak of those mediums is now gone, and that's what's helped Panda get ahead. As for Spikes, still making up ground, 6.7 seconds, doing a good job at the front. Just needs to continue closing that gap. Doesn't even need to make the overtake on Stoffel, just needs to get within 3 seconds and you'll steal P2. As for P1, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Pantry Star got quite far up the road, almost 4.5 seconds ahead of Stoffel now. So as things stand, Pantry Star has done enough to cancel his penalty. Stoffel also has a lead that would cancel out his penalty, but Spikes can close that. He is closing it at the moment, 5.7 seconds, but you've got to worry about those medium tyres. How much longer do they go until they've had enough? And when they're throwing absolutely everything at the tyres, trying to catch those guys ahead, well, that's when you will get to lap 11 or 12 and those tyres will be done because you've used them, you've given them everything. Was that contact? Was that contact? Let's have a look at the Ferrari front wing. Doesn't appear to be missing any appendages, but I think that definitely was contact. We saw some carbon fibre. And now we've got a car ghosting. Who is that? That is Stoffel. Stoffel comes into the pits. 21 lap old hards. Wonder if he had some sort of an incident or if he had enough of those hards, just couldn't do it anymore. Put on a set of mediums. Now Pantry Star is out front. 8.7 seconds is the gap. Spikes is in P2. Crucially, no penalties next to his name. Then we've got Panda in P3. Skull just behind him. He would take that position away because he's got no penalties next to his name. Still the same 3 drivers on lap 27 that haven't scored penalties. It's the 2 Ferraris and Boinkies. As for the 2 McLarens at the moment, they're the 2 cars not scoring points tonight. Ooh, we've had a spin. We've had a spin. I think that's Panda. It is Panda. Panda's had a big spin. Finally gets going again, but he's going to get going in P5. And Panda, I don't even think it was the tyres. There are only 15 laps on those hards. And now the Ferraris, P2, P3, and your leader is out on 23 lap old hards. We'll ride with the leader. This is Pantry Star. Let's just have a look at the car if he's having any sort of trouble through the corners, if there's any evidence of those hards falling off in a bad way. If he were to pit now, he would definitely lose the lead of the race. There's no question in that. The only question is how much life does he have in those tyres, and does he intend to take them for another 4 laps, or is there a pit stop in here? Remember, once we start lap 29, there can be no more safety cars. We get a caution at the end of lap 28, And hopefully that's all it will be. There's a caution there in the middle of sector 2. And Pantry Star goes over the line now to start lap 29. So now we no longer have to worry about safety cars unless the game is very broken. Death Queen saying early on she's sporting the Ferrari team tonight, spikes and skulls. So this is a very good result for the Ferrari team. I'm sure they'd like to have one position up on Pantry Star, but he's got the lead at the moment. It's a big lead. It's 7.4 seconds, and even if those tyres are going off, he can drive within himself a little bit and still win this race. That is a very big lead with just 4 laps to go. Gap is coming down, 7 seconds, 6.9. Not too much Skull can do. He's a further 7 seconds behind. Don't count anything out. We've seen some of the quickest drivers in the field make mistakes here today. Panda was definitely in for a shout. He's now down in P5 on aging hards. It's going to be difficult for him to make up more positions. He's just got a penalty next to his name. As things stand, Boinkies would jump both Panda and Imola, finish in P4. That's how important clean penalties column can be. Of course, when you've got a race where the field is really spread out, you can sometimes get away with a penalty or two. But if the field is close together like this, you really just can't. Thought Pantry Star would pit. I thought Spikes would be able to catch him, but he's doing just enough. He's managed those tyres, he built a gap when he needed to, he's maintained that gap well. And now at the end of the race, I think the Ferraris are just going to run out of tarmac. And while Spikes is closing the gap, he's not really closing it by an alarming rate. Remember, Spikes can win this race by getting the gap below 3 seconds. It's currently on 5.4. So if he can find another 2.5 seconds to the leader in the next 2 laps, he could still potentially win this race and we'll have a Ferrari victory at Imola. Of course, a track with a lot of history, Imola, and you can't think of Imola without thinking of 1994, F1's darkest weekend. Of course, we lost 2 drivers that weekend. Roland Ratzenberger on the Saturday, Senna on the Sunday. Barrichello was very lucky to survive his incident with nothing more than a split lip, as well as a broken leg for Pedro Lamy and a serious injury for Mika Hakkinen. Very, very messy weekend in F1. Of course, this track has had modifications since then. Many more chicanes added to the track. Track used to be a lot more flat out than it is today. Your leader starts his final lap, lap 32 of 32. Those tyres must be holding on. He's probably hoping he doesn't get a puncture at this stage in the race. 4.2, 4.1 seconds is the gap. Remember, we're not looking for an overtake on the circuit. We're looking to get that gap down below 3 seconds. Spikes can still win this race. Skull has dropped into P4, but he won't be too worried. Knows he just needs to stay right behind that Aston Martin. He'll claim P2. Imola does have a penalty next to his name. But Spikes, this is the man we need to watch, but he isn't closing that gap. He isn't closing it effectively. He needs to close it within below 3 seconds. He's just dropped into the 3-second mark. It's 3.8, and I think with another lap he'd be able to do it. This isn't over yet. 3.4 seconds. He can now see the leader in front of him. He knows he's got a penalty. I don't know if he knows how many penalties he has, but he'll know he has a penalty. 3.5, 3.4. This is going to be so close, but he's going to run out of tarmac. Is he 3.1? Oh goodness. 2.9. Spikes takes the victory. Pantry P2 by 0.08 of a second. Moller goes over the line in P3 but gets demoted. It's a 1 and 3 for Ferrari. P2 for Pantry Star at the end. They're so unlucky. 0.08 of a second. We literally counted that gap down on the pit straight. I thought Spikes would run out of tarmac by about 1/10 of a second, but he just pulled it the other way. And well done there to Spikes. Took it right down to the line, literally. Wes over the line in P7, then we wait for Stoffel. He follows him in P8. Where is Chums? Chums is a little further down the road in P9, looking at points on the night. And he's followed closely, is he? No, he's not. Gotzi's quite a way down the road, 38 seconds down the road. Rockwell has finished the race as he was a lap behind. I think when Maggot exits the pits, his race will also be over. And I think that's everyone in the field, with the exception of Gotzi. We wait for him to go around the Ravazza. And onto the pit straight for the final time. Gotzi over the line to pick up a solitary point for the evening. And what a race. Down to the checkered flag. 0.08 of a second. Boinkies is your driver of the day. And now we just await the official results. So there we go, there's your official results. Spikes taking the victory by 0.08 of a second. Pantry Star P2, then Skull putting a second Ferrari on the podium. Moller P4, Boinkies P5. Then we've got Panda making a mistake towards the end. He landed up finishing in P6. Then Wezo P7, Stoffel P8, Chums P9, and Gotzi, he made up the points paying positions. No points on the night for the two McLarens in P11 and 12. And Tylee Boy was your only DNF. Of course, now the top three drivers, Spikes, Pantry Star, Skull, you are invited to the cool down room, as well as the driver of the day, Boinkies. If you'd like to join the cool down room for a short chat after the race. We're just going to wait a minute or two, see if anybody wants to join. As for the race, well, the penalties made it even more exciting. Gonna give it another minute. Sometimes the guy's a little bit mic shy, but remember the top three as well as driver of the day. And that driver of the day is also championship leader. I believe we have the two Ferrari drivers. I'm going to bring them into the commentary box now. I just ask them that they mute whatever they're listening to the stream on. Otherwise, they're going to hear me twice, and they're going to hear themselves. Okay, so we do have the two Ferrari drivers. Nobody else has joined, but we've got the two teammates. We'll start with Spikes. You there, Spikes?
Hello, hello. Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Spikes, what a race there at the end. I don't know if you were listening to the commentary, but I was literally counting down the gap. And I thought you were just going to run out of tarmac. I thought maybe you were going to be behind by a tenth, but somehow, yeah, 800ths of a second.
Yeah, I was chasing those times. I was watching it the whole time. While busy watching those times, I made a few mistakes. So I think it was the last two laps. I also basically thought, okay, no, there's no way I'm going to make it. But I still kept on pushing, managing my ERS. And fortunately, I did it. Don't know how, but it happened.
I'd actually love to ask what his tire percentage was there at the end because on that last lap he lost a second in like the almost the final sector. So I think they were pretty close to puncture territory
Yeah,
because
he
he
put
put
it
under the
for the
safety
hard
car.
under the safety car, so he was 23, 24 plus
Yeah,
laps already.
he put on lap 4.
Oh yeah.
So also have Skull. Skull, you
Hello.
there?
Yes.
Skull, you finished in P3 at one time. It looked like a Ferrari 1-2 at Imola, but you happy with the double podium? Good points for Ferrari on the night. You guys are in a championship
Yes.
battle with Sauber.
Yes, I'm very happy about the double podium. Sadly, not a 1-2, but
Tell me a
points is
bit.
points.
Tell me a bit about your race.
It was interesting, a lot of overtakes, and just, yeah, close racing.
Just kept it cool.
A question for both
Yes.
of you, both the Ferrari drivers. I see it wasn't a very popular strategy. I think only 3 cars did it. It was the two Ferraris and I think it was just one of the Mercedes. The hard tire. What made you guys go for the hard tire? There was three drivers on the hard tire. The rest of the field started on mediums.
Yeah, well, basically for me, the hard tire was best for the full fuel tank. It feels better than the mediums, and the tire wear doesn't go that fast. So I decided, okay, lap 18 would be a good lap to put for the mediums, and also on the mediums I'll have lesser fuel. So the car felt very well.
And then Skull, the hard tires. Were you in communication with Spikes? Did you two make that decision together, or did you just coincidence?
I saw from Monday's race that the hard tires were better on full fuel, and I also heard from Spike, so it, yeah, same as Spike's answer. And I also put it last 17, so we don't double stack and lose some time.
Yeah, no, of course that's the one disadvantage of running with your teammates is when it starts to get to the pit window, you need to think about how you want to do things. But yeah, I don't think nobody else joined, so just the two Ferraris. But this is going to help you guys a lot in the championship. Just want to bring up the championship points real quick before we go. Team championship, as it was 123 versus 114. So I think you guys will jump into the lead of that. And then in the drivers' championship, well, Pantry Star was tied with Boinkies on 92 points apiece. Pantry Star will take the lead of the drivers' championship. And then, of course, next week, where are we going next week, guys? We're
What's next week race? I've
going
got
to
no idea.
Japan.
Ah, yes, Japan.
Ooh, yes.
That's
Lekker,
right. So
lekker.
we're going from Italy to Japan, and then in round 9 we're returning to Italy for Monza, and then we finish it off in Mexico. So not long to go, guys. 3 rounds.
3 rounds, yeah, but it's good.
Championship
Like
is
it.
it's gone quick.
It does, it does.
Just don't understand
Correct.
this. Just don't understand this flight plan over here. We're going from Italy to Japan to Italy. Well, yeah.
There's a lot of flying, a lot of jet lag.
A lot of jet lag for no reason. You could have just stayed in Italy for a week. But let's waste that jet fuel. But anyway, I want to thank both the Ferrari drivers for joining us on the stream. I'm going to end the stream real quick. And to everyone who joined us, thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow, not at 8 o'clock. We'll be back at 7:30. That's for DRS. Love to tell you what track it is, but I can't remember. And of course, if you don't join us tomorrow, we'll be back on Sunday for SKR, and next week SAFRL all over again. So if you're on the stream, thank you very much. We're about to end things. See you tomorrow. Till then, cheers. The stream is
Yeah.
over.